interview is brought to you by the University of Minnesota Alumni Association and the Maroon and Gold Network.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Myah Walker. Myah is a two-time alumna receiving her Bachelor of Science in Animal Science and Master's in Public Health from the University of Minnesota. During her time at the university, Myah was very involved. After graduating from the university, Myah also stayed pretty involved. She served on the university's collegiate council, the CFAN's Alumni Board of Directors, and the University of Minnesota Alumni Association Board of Directors. And she currently co-chairs the University of Minnesota's Alumni Advocacy Group, MN201. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience at the University of Minnesota?
Yeah. So I grew up in Minnesota, born and raised. Actually grew up not too far from where I currently live now in Robbinsdale. In high school and growing up, I loved animals. So I knew I wanted to do a career that had to do with animals. Not sure where that came from because neither of my parents were really into animals like that. But they did help me to figure out my career path. And so kind of pointed me in the direction of doing veterinary medicine. Over the years of shadowing and talking to veterinarians and in some of my experiences once I got started at the University of Minnesota, I learned that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted a career with animals, just not a veterinarian. And so the University of Minnesota has a program, Animal Science, that just opened the door to opportunities for other careers related to animals. So I just said yes to a lot of opportunities at the University of Minnesota. There was the Midwest Poultry Consortium that kind of directed my starting career into the poultry industry, where I spent 13 years in food safety and animal welfare. And then I was also involved with minorities in agriculture, natural related resources and related sciences. I did a national student exchange program at Texas A&M with some animal science classes down there. Had opportunity to study abroad, doing my history credits, University of Minnesota in Norway. So I just had a lot of opportunities that I could say yes to that can help kind of just sculpt my career and where I am now.
Awesome. Well, being super involved, I guess that goes right into our next question. How did you get started volunteering and why do you choose to volunteer with the University of Minnesota?
Yeah. I would say my start was very young. I grew up in a family where they just instilled volunteering and giving back to the community from a young age. I had grandparents that were always helping people, or I had a grandfather who he led the NAACP. His local NAACP chapter there. So it was just always something that was just innate in us, right? My parents volunteered at their local churches. So by the time I got to the University of Minnesota, I'd already volunteered in various ways. And so it's just something to continue to do. And so I had no qualms about doing it, right? It was just finding which area, which organization do I want to be a part of to help volunteer. So I started that in undergrad. I had opportunity to talk to kids about agriculture all the time. And then that kind of, I don't want to say spiraled into it, but it spiraled into being an ambassador for the University of Minnesota and recruiting students to come. And then that also extended into once I graduated from the University of Minnesota to be able to carry on those volunteer opportunities. So it's always something that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. It's just a matter of with what organization and where I'll be doing that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with all the volunteering at the University of Minnesota, what's your favorite thing or most memorable experience?
Ooh, there's a lot of them. To start with, I love young kids. I love talking with them and just sharing my story and just seeing their aha moments of like, oh, this career actually exists. Like for me as a young kid, I never knew that I could have a career in poultry science. Like what even is that, right? So I always have great memories about talking to some sixth graders that would come on campus, and you would take them down to where the barns are on St. Paul campus and to the dairy science area where they can make ice cream, and just doing all of these things that are outside of their everyday norm to show them one, where food comes from, but also that you could have a career in this. And it doesn't mean you have to have a background in agriculture, right? I'm a city girl gone ag is a tagline that I like to use a lot, just to show kids that you don't have to stick with like the regular careers that you hear on an everyday basis. There's so many options that are out there. So that would be one of the few memorable experiences. I think another one that I really appreciate is being a part of the mentor program that the University of Minnesota has. I know there's various ones at different colleges. And so I was a mentee when I was at CFANS, and I was able to become a mentor once I graduated and give back in that capacity. And I think there was even one year where my mentee was mentoring somebody else when she graduated. And it was just cool to have like that generation of mentorship going through specifically within agriculture. So yeah, those are probably two that I would focus on.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then for someone who is super involved like you, why would you encourage someone else to volunteer?
It's one of those things where like you just don't realize the reward that it has, that it's not really tangible, but like the joy that it brings just helping other people and sharing your story. You never know how what you do will impact others. And so I always love being able to have that opportunity to just give back. And I encourage people to do that, even if it's not with the University of Minnesota, which I hope it is. There are other ways to do that in various capacities. And so I'm always encouraging people to just give back to your community, our University of Minnesota community and beyond. And that extends not only here in the Twin Cities, but on a national level, on a global level. There's different opportunities to do that. And it's a way to just show love and kindness to one another, right? The reward is just worth it, just being able to give back to people.
Awesome. Well, that is all we had today. So I just want to say thank you for joining me and thank you for your continued involvement at the University of Minnesota.
Thanks, my pleasure.